What's up, Jimmy?
How you doing, Jimmy?
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Welcome to NestWise AI, Jimmy Mortgage, and let's have a little fun with it, man.
Appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, always. So now that you're here, give me a brief introduction of who is Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't know me, my name's Jim Ristagno. I'm a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker based out of the Hoboken office. I've actually been a Hoboken resident myself for almost 15 years. I'm there with my wife, Christina, and our two kids, Olivia and Dominic. And we absolutely love the city life and the waterfront. It's a great town.
Yeah, Hoboken. Yeah. What is it? How many square miles? It's like 1.2?
Mile by a mile, baby. The mile square city.
Interesting.
That's it.
It's interesting, right? Because it's a mile, but there's so much within that mile, right?
It is. It has one of the highest walkability scores. We have 3 different ways to commute into New York City, 3 modes of transportation between the bus, the path, the ferry, bars, restaurants, nightlife, shopping. So you don't even need a car to be there. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong. There's a north side and a south side of Hoboken?
Absolutely, and the Midtown too. And then, can't forget about the center.
1 square mile. So you have north, south, and Midtown.
I know, a mile by a mile. There's several different pockets, but it shows. It shows.
Yeah. Like I said, my office is down there, so it's kind of on a nice day you can actually walk up and down and enjoy some of the nice things that are happening in Hoboken, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've had an outdoor lunch or two. It's a great time.
Good stuff. So what inspired you to become a real estate agent, excuse me?
Yeah, so I love the entrepreneurial aspect of it. I love growing a business. And then when I look at things outside of growing a business, it's what do I want to do on a day-to-day basis, right? I'm not very good at sitting still in an office all day. So this provides me the opportunity.
I don't blame you.
You know, it provides me the opportunity to get out in front of clients. I meet people from vast arrays of life, and it helps me build a relationship with them. And then it's a very rewarding industry too, is I get to help people with, one of the biggest and major purposes in their life, right? It's somewhere they're going to live.
Yeah,
they're making this home purchase, right? So I get to be a part of that experience.
All right, it's key you said that, right? Because it's an experience, right? I think most of the time when one or families are looking to move, that's all they ask for, right? It's the experience of what that was like and what will the future look like as I continue to do different things if I want to move up or down within Hoboken or outside of Hudson County, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So here's my question. Do you think it's a good time to sell a house now?
It is a good time to sell a house.
Okay.
So if we want to talk about Hoboken specifically, we have about 55 active condo listings.
55.
To give you an idea.
Okay.
55. There are 160 agents in my Coldwell Banker office alone in Hoboken.
That's just Coldwell Banker.
Right. And then you have to think about the density of the population.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. We're not even gonna do the numbers behind that, but that's definitely a lot, right?
So it is absolutely a great time to buy. We still have a lot of qualified buyers in the market that are just awaiting the right opportunity and the right home to purchase.
Okay. So the fact that you're in Hoboken, there's a lot of condos there. Is it fair to say that you're a condo specialist?
It is very fair.
Okay, cool. Can you break down some of the nuances of what those condos look like within Hoboken?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few things to be mindful of, right? When it comes to purchasing a condo. And one thing that we could speak about that comes to mind is whether a building is warrantable or non-warrantable. Meaning, will it qualify for a conventional loan or a conventional mortgage?
Correct.
If you look at Hoboken in the Midtown area, right? Okay. So we have our several different neighborhoods.
Right, you talked about that, right?
A lot of those buildings are going to be 3, 4, 5 unit buildings.
Okay.
So when it comes to being a warrantable building, to qualify for conventional financing, 50% or more of those units have to be owner occupied. So it's one thing to be wary of going into making a purchase, and it's a question for buyers to ask. It's a question for sellers to agents to ask their sellers, hey, how many units in this building are owner occupied?
Yeah.
Because that's something that could throw off a transaction really quickly. Is if somebody goes to get their conventional mortgage, they do the condo questionnaire, they find out 3 of the 5 units are rented.
Wow.
not quality. Yeah.
And the scary thing is, right, because you have to pay for the condo questionnaire.
You have to. You're already in the process.
You're already in the process, so you're paying for it.
You've had your offer accepted, most likely. You're either in and out of attorney review and figuring this out.
Right.
You've already told your friends and family how excited you are to be moving into this home.
Right.
And next thing you know, you're faced with a decision, right? Is, do I want to continue with this transaction, or do I want to look at a portfolio loan, which these private lenders, obviously it comes with a higher interest rate.
Yeah, and it's good. It's important that you talk about the warrantable versus non-warrantable, right? Because I know that sometimes if you don't have a seasoned or an experienced agent, am I saying it right? Seasoned, so someone who is not as experienced in the condo field, and they're working that transaction, and they're telling the client like they can move forward, not knowing that if you don't know the difference between the warrantable versus non-warrantable, you can really jam up that client. Because like I said, we can approve you. It's just the association may have some problems with that, and criteria is behind that, right? So
challenges behind the scenes and questions that a lot of first-time home buyers wouldn't know to ask.
Right.
And even first-time home sellers, because if we take a look at the nature of the market now, especially in the condo market in Hoboken, we have a lot of owners that are locked in at 2%, 3%, 4% interest rates. So they're still moving on to the suburbs, but what they're doing is they're holding on to these condos as investment properties.
Yeah.
So more and more over in these smaller buildings, we're starting to see a shift in that dynamic that all of a sudden we may not hit that 50% threshold because 3 of the 4 units in the building are now rental properties.
That is very important to talk of that. Yeah, you're right about that. And I think sometimes the assumption is that I can sell, I can do whatever I want to, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way, right? Because you still have to understand what's going on within the units in that, within the association.
Both sides of the transaction, right? Because if you're a seller and you know your building is non-warrantable, it's something that I would actually disclose from the very beginning. And it's also going to be reflective of your price point, right? If somebody's going to have to come in and take a loan at a higher interest rate, obviously it's a little bit more difficult to get the premium on the price point there. And that's going to affect where we're going to market your home from the start to draw the right audience.
Yeah, that's very important. You talked about that. And we talk about generational wealth, right? And, you know, we see all over, depending on which channel social media channel you walk into, they tap into it. How do you see that with someone actually holding on a condo? I know you talked about it 2 segments ago where you'll have someone hold on to that 2% interest rate on that condo and, you know, move out further west or south or north of New Jersey and still try to create that path. So how do you feel about that part of generational wealth through real estate?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So personal goals of my wife and I and our family is we don't intend on selling this condo anytime soon.
Right.
And that includes wherever we go next. Part of our goal is holding on to this condo. If you take a look at real estate as a whole, right? And historic numbers and values, if you're holding on to a property 15, 20, 30 years, that's really where you're going to see a great percentage of appreciation and a huge return on your purchase price. I
would completely agree with that. Saying to have this, well, we're talking about interest rates. What do you think about interest rates? It's a common conversation, you know, mood swings, government, you know, all these things are happening, how the bond is.
It's an interesting market, right?
Correct.
Because interest rates are a little higher, home prices are still high. And it comes down to the basics of supply and demand. So, look, the bank is your friend to get the home.
Correct.
And ultimately, the goal would be to either get rid of that mortgage down the road, and then the bank's no longer involved. You don't have to worry about your interest rate. Or just use that interest rate that we're in this current market to get your home. You could always refinance. So the best part, I would say, for anybody buying now, if you could qualify for this home now, that rate's locked and it could only get better from here. So for most people, their housing payment is the largest portion of their budget every month, right? So imagine, you know, next year, this is my mortgage payment and nobody could change that except for me.
Right.
That then is in your control. You have that power. And if interest rates go down, you refinance.
Yeah. I always have this conversation with my clients, right? Think of it as a marathon, right? What goes up goes down, what goes down goes up, right? And
absolutely.
When that time is ready, as a professional mortgage advisor, I'm always going to advise you what's going on with the market, and here are some of the things that you need to do to prepare yourself if you're ready to refinance, right? I think that's important too, right? Because sometimes things do happen, circumstances change, and for whatever reason, you want to protect that. So you have these, you have these conversations with your clients. I do this on a quarterly basis to make sure and give them advice on what's going on, what does that look like, and they take that, and when that time is ready, you'll go ahead and refinance, right?
Right, and really, the adage should be buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate.
Repeat that again. That's a good one. I like that one.
It's meant to be a long-term investment.
Right.
So I know people get caught up because they'll see their peers, friends, family that bought that home at 3% 2 years ago, and it's already appreciated by $100,000, and they're locked in at this low payment. But you could still win when you buy now.
Yeah.
Especially if you know the simple principles of supply and demand. With inventory low, I can't really see pricing being affected anytime soon. And will it in the future? Probably. It's a market like anything else. So like you said, we'll have our highs and our lows, but where you make your money is when you go to sell.
And I also think too, we do this a lot. We need to stop comparing, right? Everybody has different situations. I mean, just because X is doing something and they're flipping a burger, guess what? I got like 2.3%. What did you get? I got 4 point. You're not a good human being, right? You don't know their circumstances, right? I always feel like it's very important just to stay in your lane when it comes to stuff like that, because of people, how people use, what people do to get to that down payment, or what they have as assets to help absorb some of that down payment, or if you don't know, they don't tell you the whole story. No. So I always feel like, yes, we always want the better deal. I mean, it's very clear we always want the better deal.
Nobody's ever told me they want to pay more.
Yeah, no one wants to pay more. Right, exactly. So it's important not to get caught up in what this person has versus that person has. To just, consult with those, especially a mortgage professional like myself, to just make sure that what you're getting is the value. And when that time comes, we can assess then what to do with that rate. Right?
It's a market, right?
Correct.
Somebody at some point bought Apple stock for $10.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea to buy it yesterday.
Right.
But where you go to make your money is when you go to sell.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So now talk about selling. I notice a lot of Hoboken, Jersey City, Hudson County. Yeah. Many of them move over to Westfield, New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
After once they start growing their families and so on and so forth, they decide that they want to go to the suburb. I've seen it heavily, especially Hoboken, go to Westfield. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So Westfield, Cranford, Scotch Plains. It's almost like a Hoboken 2.0, right? Okay. So we have...
That's interesting.
I've seen 2.0. We have friends and family that have gone that way. Great school districts. Each of those towns have little downtown feel too. So you're not losing that walkability. People still want the bars, shop, restaurants, the social aspect of life. Okay. They get to utilize great schools. It gives them the opportunity for more space for their family. Simple things like a driveway and a garage.
Right.
It's
the fine things in life. Parking your car in the garage.
The finer things, right? You spend $2 to $3 to $4 million on a brownstone in Hoboken, you still have nowhere to park your car. So,
wow. It's what it is, right?
That's it.
That's it.
So, but no, we've seen that as a great hub for people looking to move on and start the next chapter of their lives as they continue to grow their family. And especially now with a little bit more flexibility, not everyone's in the city 5 days a week. So you still have your train and your bus lines to get you there when you need to go 2 or 3 days a week. Okay. It's not going to be too challenging for most people. And it provides you for a great opportunity with growth of the family.
It's key. You said that, right? New Jersey Transit, right? The towns that we just discussed, the buses and trains, they're really accessible go into the city. So that's a win-win situation for those who are moving from Hoboken to the areas you mentioned, Scotch Plains, Westfield, Cranford, and so on, right?
You could always come back to Hoboken, too. You don't have to skip over and go right in the city. They come back to see their roots.
That is true. So having said that, what is one thing you would change in the real estate market today?
Honestly, I would change how people have access to, I guess, to information immediately up front, right? So I think a lot of people, when they start their home search, are pointing and clicking. And a lot of people now, we get used to the instant solution. So
you mean Google tells you everything up front? I didn't know that. Oh man, I did not know that part. Right?
Yeah, Google's the expert
right.
Of everything, right? Never mind the local market expert in a small mile by mile niche. But a lot of people will point and click, and that's how they'll begin the search. And they really have no idea how these systems work and who they're being set up with. And people don't understand how important this transaction is. It's a major financial decision for you and your family, let alone the place that you're going to live, right?
Correct.
So outside of the emotional aspect, there's also the financial aspect. And it's a crazy stat I saw, but I think it was something like around 60% of agents do 5 or less transactions a year.
5 or less transaction a year.
So a lot of times, they'll point and click. They'll see this big name, all these sales, all these reviews.
Right.
And that's not who they're going to end up working with during their transaction.
That's, you know what, that you're right about that, right? Because sometimes it's if you're buying up that space, you're going to get
a paid market, right? And
exactly.
I don't think the consumer understands that.
You know what, that's a good question. That's a good answer. Excuse me. That's a good answer on that one, right? That's a very good one. That being said, you are a golfer.
Yes,
right? Yes,
absolutely.
So something about me today, I got, not today, over the weekend, I asked the community for a deep discount on golf clubs or for free. And
I've got an old bag for you if you need it to get started.
Well, I did get some clubs. So one of the things I would like to do, because I want to get into this sport, tap into that experience with you and others who play golf, and talk about the game in addition to what real estate looks like. I think that's an opening conversation.
I'm just going to warn you, it's addicting.
It is. Oh man. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, thank you for coming on this podcast to talk about how you see real estate in your set of lenses.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate you having me. Happy to share.
Man.